Welcome to Igniting Discovery, an AUANews Inside Tract podcast. This series is part of the AUA Innovation Nexus, an ecosystem that connects innovators, clinicians, and industry leaders to advance discovery in urology. In each episode, we hear directly from those shaping new ideas and moving innovation forward.
Welcome to AUA News Inside Tract. My name is Sarah Gross, and I'm the AUA's Research Grants Senior Program Manager. Today on our Igniting Discovery series, we're talking with one of AUA Innovation Nexus's 2025 Showcase winners, Bryan Pinchuk, founder and CEO of InnoCare Urologics. Bryan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So for listeners who might be new to InnoCare Urologics, can you please give us your elevator pitch?
We've redefined Foley safety by putting an auto valve in the Foley balloon, allowing it to self-deflate if it's pulled by accident, lowering injury risk and reducing treatment costs. So similar to an airbag in a car, it's invisible unless it's needed, and then it provides that safety aspect that Foley catheters have been needing for decades.
Great. So I remember at the Nexus Showcase, your product got a lot of attention. So can you walk us through exactly, what was the original inspiration for developing this technology?
A urologist and a radiologist. The urologist is in Florida and the radiologist in North Dakota. Each separately were sick and tired of treating patients that had been coming in middle of the night due to pulling their Foleys. So most of the time it was patients with altered mental status, some dementia patients. And they were thinking that the Foley catheter has been the standard of care for urine drainage for decades, but there had been no meaningful safety improvements put on the design. So they felt like there needed to be a better way to design the Foley. And the medical device community is pretty small. So through, my father is very connected in the medical device community. He's some of his inventions are the nylon angioplasty balloon and some drug-eluting stents. So through the medical device community, they found him and me, and with our all of our powers combined, we were able to form InnoCare and make it happen. And here we are.
Fantastic. So as you're really developing this technology, did you encounter any early scientific or engineering hurdles that you had to overcome?
Yeah, so the FDA requires, so the way that our catheter works, it's designed to activate the safety valve within a certain threshold of force. And so the FDA requires a minimum force threshold, and then our users require a maximum force threshold. So it has to be above a minimum force so that it doesn't fall out by accident and become more of a nuisance, but it has to activate the valve below the force where injury would otherwise occur. So we're in this sweet spot of force that we've determined is clinically appropriate. And so it took a lot of iteration and hard work to be able to achieve a repeatable and reliable valve activation force within that range. So once we achieve that, then we just keep looking for the next challenge that we need to attack.
So what is the next step in your regulatory or the clinical pipeline?
Yeah, so right now we have a 16 French straight tip Foley. That was our first product to market. And actually in about a month, just in April, we'll have our second product, which is a coude tip catheter. So we'll have that available. A lot of men with enlarged prostates, they require catheterization with a coude tip. So we're actually going to be able to get to a larger segment of the patient population by having that product available. And then not too long after that, at some point in the summer, maybe around September, we're going to be releasing a closed system. So that would be where we have the catheter body already attached to a drainage bag. So that way, some facilities that require a closed system for their catheterized patients will be able to approach those centers as well.
So far, how has the community really responded to this with the patients, clinicians, and
Very well. It's great. The validation and the feedback we received, I know, even just as being part of the Innovation Nexus, understanding that the problem is extremely widespread. There's about 100 million Foley catheters used each year around the world, and anyone that you speak to actually thinks that that number is underreported. So, maybe 150 up to 200 million Foley catheters around the world every year. And anyone that has familiarity with Foley's, whether it's not only on the patient side, but obviously the physician and nursing side, if you talk to them about Foley's, even before they know what we do, their first reaction is, oh, Foley catheters. And then we tell them what we're doing and they say, and immediately you can just see their head, they're in their mind, they're thinking they had this patient, they were called in at 2:00 in the morning and, there's blood everywhere. And it was, it's a similar story that we hear almost from everyone. So we actually just, over this past weekend, we were at a Society of Urologic Nurses conference, and same thing. Some of the folks we speak with immediately just start telling us about a patient where they had a similar traumatic pull experience and how, where has this device been? Why didn't I think of that? It's about time. We get a lot of those comments, and we couldn't agree more. Personally, I know someone whose father passed away from an infection he got when his Foley was pulled out. So, the Foley was invented almost at this point 100 years ago. And it's about time that someone's done something on the safety side for patients, and that's what we're hoping to achieve.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. It sounds like it's about time. It sounds like the community was really, looking for some new alternatives here.
Yes, absolutely.
So, you mentioned briefly your experience with Innovation Nexus. So what was your initial reason for applying to be involved in the showcase?
Selfishly, we as a team decided to apply. Actually, we applied first, I want to say in it was either 2022 or 2023.
23, yeah. Uh-huh.
And we were not accepted to be a presenter. And at that point, we had some prototypes, we had done some early testing, but we didn't have FDA clearance and our design was not fully refined. But we applied anyway because we felt like the urology community just needed to know what we were working on. And we were looking for any feedback that we would receive from the team that looked at the presentation. So we applied first a few years back, but were not accepted. And then when we applied again in 2025, we had clearance at that point. I think when we did our submission to you guys, we had just received clearance. And we were on the path to getting first in human. And it actually ended up working out where maybe a week before my presentation in Vegas, we actually, the prior week, had just had our first in human. So it was really good timing to be able to announce at that conference that we had our first in human. At that point, everything, we were picking up a lot of momentum in terms of our just general corporate milestones. And it was just great timing. And again, like we did the first submission, trying to get the word out there that we're working on this. It was a great experience. The presentation, I think that presentation was the most people I've ever been able to present our company to. I don't know how many people you guys had there, maybe 300 or 400, something like that. And then the panel questions were just very insightful questions and helped us develop. If I didn't have an exact answer, it was immediately something that we would look into to be able to provide an answer if we were asked the same question again. But that experience, it helped us be more prepared for everything we were going to get into the market. So overall, just highly recommend it for anyone that's thinking about applying or taking part of the Innovation Nexus.
I'm glad you had a great experience and you got a lot out of it. That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
So while you were participating in all the preparation leading up to it, was there anything that stood out to you or surprised you as you were interacting with the Innovation Nexus team?
Yeah, so our presentation originally, I think I was trying to figure out how to pare it down to enough slides. And one of the feedback that we got from the team was if you can't bring it down to a couple of slides, then you need to do more work. Because, and similar to your first question, the elevator pitch, you should be able to just explain what you're doing in a very simple way to anyone that you meet. So by presenting and with the interaction with the team, just getting a way to articulate what we're doing in a very simple way was something that, as a founder or engineer or anything, you're intimately involved and you know everything about the device. But if you meet someone new, you have to be able to explain, in a second what you're doing, and they have to be able to understand it. So, keeping it simple and explaining it in a way that makes sense to anyone. It's not always easy, but going through a process like the Innovation Nexus helps you refine that message and be able to do that.
Great. That's always our goal. So with the Innovation Nexus experience, were you able to connect with, additional people that you really wanted to have new relationships with? Did you have new doors open for collaborations or investor interest?
Absolutely. Yeah. So like I said, there's over 200 million Foley catheters used around the world. We're a small company and totally understand that for us to make a big enough impact to as many patients as we can reach, we need to talk with some of the larger strategic companies that already have the footprint and they have the process and systems in place to reach those patients. One of the challenges that we currently face is that because Foley catheters are so ubiquitous and everywhere, there are different care settings and each care setting has different preferences, they have different usage patterns, they have different price sensitivities. So for us to be able to sort of get to as many patients as we can, we almost have to have segmented marketing strategies for each one of those different care settings. So if you think about an ICU care setting, you think about just the traditional inpatient, you think about long-term care, nursing homes, skilled nursing facilities, home health, catheters are everywhere. So for us to be able to make a meaningful impact to the patients in each one of those settings, it requires a larger team on a grander scale. And so by participating in the Nexus, we're able to meet some potential investors that are going to help us scale up to achieve those milestones, but also meet some of the corporate potential partners that might be able to help us get into some, if not all those care settings, into some of the select ones. Didn't even mention the VA. The VA is a possible huge patient population. So that's just another piece. And because they're all over the place, our relationships with some of these companies is tremendous for us.
That sounds like you really got a lot out of it. That's great.
Yeah.
So for anyone who is looking to participate in the future with Nexus, what's some advice you would give them?
Practice your pitch. So I must have talked to myself, to a wall, to a mirror, maybe 30, 40, 50 times before going up on that stage. So just practice, and keep it simple. There are some presentations, not just at the AUA Nexus, but I've seen so many pitch presentations, and I get, they're on slide 5, 6, 7, and I still don't even know what they're doing. I don't know what their product is. I don't know what problem they're trying to solve. Just keep it simple, and go back to the elevator pitch. If you can't explain it that quickly, figure out how to. So it's the two things, just practice so that you know what you're saying. This didn't happen at the Nexus presentation, but I've seen sometimes where the projector goes down and then you can't even use slides. So if you're not prepared enough to just speak off the cuff and know your numbers and know your data, by practicing it 50 times, you'll know it. But some people, if they don't have slides, they can't speak, and that could pose a problem. So just know your presentation, be ready for curveballs, and then keep it simple. Just keep it simple.
It's fantastic advice. Yeah. Always be ready to handle any situation.
Yeah.
So just in general, innovation in urology requires a mix of scientific rigor, regulatory strategy, real world clinical insight. So what is some guidance that you might offer to those early stage founders about how to balance all of that?
Talk to your customer. There are some people, I don't always like to use the word customer, but ultimately being a business, there are multiple customers. So we have physicians and nurses that, like I said before, everybody has different preferences and needs and wants within each of the different care settings. And then obviously I didn't even mention from strictly a business standpoint, then there's the people that look at the price. There's that aspect where you have to understand the price sensitivity and what each facility and segment is, what they care about, and your price has to meet, they're looking for a certain amount of value and you have to provide the value for them. So that's one part. But if you think about, from like the clinical aspect, a physician might care about, the safety part, where they don't want their patient coming in at 2:00 in the morning because, the patient's not there for a pulled out Foley. They've got something else going on. That's the last thing that they want to now deal with. Then think about the family. We actually had, this just happened maybe a week or two ago. A patient with dementia needed a Foley catheter temporarily. The family said, absolutely not. We know Foleys are going to pose a problem. But the physician knew about us and said, hey, don't worry, we have a safety catheter in stock and we're going to use that one. So if anything were to go wrong, it's a safety catheter. You can have some peace of mind. And the family was, I think he said they were happy about the catheter. And I don't know anyone that's ever been happy when talking about Foley catheters. So that was actually really cool for us to hear. It was only temporary. Patient did not pull it out. Everything was fine. But so providing that peace of mind for the family is something really that, is, talking about doing some research, like the family cares about one part of it. Then if you go to like the nursing staff, the last thing they want to do is be, especially with Foley catheters, because they've been doing the same procedure for years, they don't want to do something totally different. So when we were understanding and getting some of that voice of the customer, we had to really make sure that we didn't change the workflow. So our catheter by intention is designed to be exactly like a standard Foley if nothing happens. So out of the pouch and out of the box, you wouldn't necessarily know. And even when it's in place, you wouldn't necessarily know that it's an InnoCare catheter because the workflow is the same, the placement's the same, there's nothing different. And that was something that we put extremely high priority on, because everybody understands if it's safer, yes, sure, it's safety. But if it creates a huge barrier to learn how to use it, and it changes the workflow and we're adding 30 steps, that's a different conversation that we have to have. So all of that pre-work to make sure, no, we don't want any special preparation. We don't want to need any special training. We just want it to work. Just like, a regular catheter, just be safer. And so what we were able to achieve is exactly that. In our early market evaluation, everyone said, okay, it works just like a standard Foley catheter. This is great. We don't there's no training, there's no special supplies.
Mhm.
So like really understanding that up front helped us, because we didn't want to design something, get FDA clearance on something, and then have to go back and change it because nobody wants to use it.
Right.
So doing
Yeah, even if it works great, it's not
Right.
something that's going to go for.
Exactly. Right. So if, like, for example, I think I mentioned the airbag in the car. Like if you got in your car and had to do 30 extra steps to prepare
Right.
each airbag before you go anywhere, people would just ride bikes. So
Right.
so we wanted to make sure that it was like, just, take it out of the package and use it just like a standard one. And that's what we were able to achieve.
Yeah, makes total sense. So this year's Innovation Nexus Forum, it's coming up on May 14th. Do you think, and if so, why, that these events really matter in the future for urologic innovation?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I look forward to it. It's always cool to see what's coming up, what's new. Our device specifically doesn't use any AI that everyone's talking about AI, but it's fascinating. We try to incorporate it in our research as much as we can, but just to see what's out there. I'm not a urologist, so when I go to the Innovation Nexus and I see what's out there, what's on the horizon, it's just, it could spark ideas of some other problems that are needing to be addressed. So it's just a really great way to see what's coming up, and keeps me up to date, and just a great place to network and meet some really impressive people.
Well, that's wonderful. So last question for you.
Yes.
Just thinking ahead, what excites you most about, catheter innovation as, you see the field moving forward?
So like I said, I've never heard anyone say that they were happy about a Foley catheter. But truly, it's been around for about 100 years, and for the foreseeable future, I don't see them going anywhere. And I think people are starting to put some more emphasis on the patient satisfaction side of it. And so, we strive to provide a safer option than the current standard Foley. But what I'm really hoping for is that ultimately the current standard Foley actually incorporates InnoCare's technology, because there's no reason why a Foley shouldn't have a safety feature built in. Everyone knows about this accidental pull-out problem. It's been around since the beginning. And we have high hopes that our device will ultimately become the standard of care.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Bryan. It was really great to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to Igniting Discovery, an AUA News Inside Tract podcast from the AUA Innovation Nexus. To learn more about the Innovation Nexus and how to get involved, visit AUANexus.org.